I'm Rick Murrow from Air Academy Associates, and I'd like to welcome you to today's tutorial as we discuss the contents we might expect to see in the fifth section of the A3 template. As you know, Vision 1 is using the improvement methodology DMAIC, so the fifth section is entitled Control. In the DMAIC methodology, the purpose of the control phase is to sustain the improvement gain that was achieved in the improved phase. The tools of DMAIC were introduced in the Define tutorial. For this tutorial, we will first look at the list of possible tools available for use, and then we will address some of the more common ones that you will see used in the control phase. For the control phase, we see tools such as the control plan, run charts, control charts, standard work, and capturing the benefits of the process improvement effort. The Vision 1 recommended tools are listed here. Subsequent slides will address these tools in limited detail, as this should be a review of the tools you have learned during the Green Belt or Black Belt course. Because the space available in Section 5 is limited, it is important that the team that is completing the A3 include the vital information that will fit in the area provided. All other information or additional tools that were used by the team should be included as supplemental documentation attached to the A3 report. Over the years, I have found that once a team completes its process improvement project, if it doesn't have a control plan, there's a good chance that over time, the process gains will not be maintained. It is essential that a control plan be developed and deployed. A control plan is just that. It is the plan that the team puts in place that is approved by management and leadership to ensure that the gains made in the process improvement effort are controlled and sustained. By creating, implementing, and deploying a control plan, the process owner knows what needs to be done to keep the process healthy and satisfying the needs of our patients. The plan should be detailed and defined such that all requirements are understood and all responsibilities are laid out. This slide highlights a plan that contains essential elements, which if implemented thoroughly, will sustain the gain. The elements include documentation of the new process steps, the performance measures that are tracked on a regular basis and recorded. The measurement system is checked to ensure repeatability and reproducibility. Measurement system error is minimized. Reaction to a measurement going in the wrong direction or varying more than is acceptable is determined and spelled out. In other words, what corrective action would be taken to keep the process healthy? Lastly, who is the person or persons or position or positions responsible for monitoring the measurement and process that was improved? The run chart is used to track the performance over time. The run chart visually highlights that the measurement has changed and has changed for the good. It highlights variation, which is important for the process owner to understand. If the variation becomes larger than is acceptable, then action needs to be taken. The run chart depicts how well the process is performing. Visually, we can see the data and determine if a trend or pattern is starting to develop. The run chart does not tell anything about the stability of the process. The process can actually start to go out of control, and it might be hard to determine that from a control chart. The run chart in this example is lead time for appointments. It shows the average line as well as the goal. If the goal is the maximum value I want the measure of performance to reach, then when I exceed 30 days, clearly that is not good. What percent of the time am I willing to exceed 30 days without declaring that the process is not performing the way that is desired? A control chart is a run chart on steroids. It does all that a run chart does, plus more. The most important difference is a control chart helps determine if a process is stable. Every process improvement effort should result in a process whose measures of performance are stable and in control. Because a control chart has an upper and lower control limit, the owner can determine if a data point is out of control. If it is an out of control symptom, is it a special cause that can be identified and fixed? Or is the process going out of control? A control chart can also alert the owner of an out of control symptom, so going out of control can possibly be prevented. The control chart highlights average, variation, outliers, shifts, and trends, allowing the process owners, managers, to make decisions based on facts. This example control chart is tracking lead time for appointments. The average lead time is close to 30 days. The upper control limit is roughly 62.4 days, and the lower control limit is 3.5 days. I have an out-of-control point right here. Okay. I investigate it. If it is a special cause, I have identified it, and now I need to fix it. The thing to note here is I have 16 data points that exceed 30 days. Clearly, the process is not capable of meeting the requirement of 30 days or less. So let's refresh our memories concerning process capability. Basically, when I talk process capability, I'm comparing the voice of the process to the voice of the customer. So let's state some facts here and in the next slide. And if you have any questions, please review the material presented in the Greenbelt course, and that will most likely give you the answers you are looking for. A control chart is a run chart with statistically determined center line and upper control limits and lower control limits. Control charts are the voice of the process. Control limits come from actual process data and are part of the control chart. They are set at plus or minus 3 times standard deviation. Specification limits should come from the customer or patient requirements. Specification limits are not part of the control chart. A process is in control if the outcome is predictable, consistent, and stable. Process capability only holds meaning for processes that are in a state of control. The process is capable of producing output that is within the specification limits. Lastly, a process can be in control and not meet the needs of the customer or patient. Standard work, which documents the current best practice for performing a task or process and ensures that everyone is applying it, is a prerequisite for improvement. Standard work promotes efficiency while reducing variation. It's hard to improve a process that is not well understood or consistently applied. Remember, standard work is a documented baseline, and that we train to that baseline standard. Then we regularly audit the standard work to confirm it is being followed and is the current best practice. Since the beginning of the process improvement effort, we have emphasized the importance of performance measurements. The decision to improve a process is based on one or more of those measurements. The problem statement is based on those same measurements. Goals include driving the measurements to a new level. Quantifying the benefit of the improvement includes the new state of the measurements versus the former state. These measurements are typically what we refer to as lagging indicators or output measurements. Lagging indicators measure performance already completed. They allow managers to track how the process is performing. They are based and used to determine if a process needs to be improved. They are forward focused and typically easier to measure. There's another type of measurement that is extremely important to the health of the outcome of the process. That category of measurement is referred to as leading indicators. Leading indicators are seen as a precursor to output achieved. They're used to affect the outcome early in the process. Normally, they are linked to lagging indicators. and often related to activities undertaken by staff. As the process is improved and then put into control, it is vital to select leading indicators that can predict the quality level of the output and its corresponding lagging indicators. These leading indicators are related to actions inside the process or at the input of the process that will have an impact on the output. Bottom line, leading indicators drive action by staff members and process workers that impacts lagging indicators, performance measures. Leading indicators help sustain the gain made in process improvement. There is a relationship between leading and lagging indicators. This slide gives some good examples that highlights that connection. The first one, percent screening appointments, not completing all requirements. That's a lagging indicator. A good leading indicator might be percent pre-visits not completed prior to screening appointment. We go down halfway down the screen there, percent patient falls and incidents. That's a good lagging indicator. A good leading indicator might be percent patients assessed for fall risk. Lastly, we'll look at number of hospital-acquired infections per 100 patient admissions. That's a good lagging indicator. A good leading indicator might be percent compliance with hand washing procedures. It is exciting to see the benefits achieved by the process improvement team. Benefits fit into different buckets. Some improvements have financial impact, while others have quality of life or patient experience benefits. Most of the time it is a good mix of benefits. Benefits are determined in the control phase. We will look at the general categories for the purposes of this tutorial. We see that direct benefits, they must have identifiable impact on the bottom line, must be able to verify cause and effect relationship. They require typically about 30 days of tracking to establish baseline data. Some good examples might be expense reductions, increased capacity with identified growth opportunities, or cost reduction. Indirect benefits are, on the other hand, are unable to quantify impact and or establish cause and effect relationships. Examples might be patient and employee satisfaction, increased capacity with no identified growth opportunities or cost reduction. And then lastly, cost avoidance is a good example of an indirect benefit. Let's look at the control phase of project ID number 161 to see the content that was selected by the team to put on the A3 in section 5. Once again, the team can only highlight so much in the space allowed in the A3 template. Supporting documentation would accompany the A3. This A3 report includes the new requirements of the improved process. It addresses standardization, data monitoring, required leadership support, and guidelines to be followed by those performing the process. The next two slides discuss some of the common mistakes that have been seen in the VISN A3 reports. As you read down the entries, I would ask that you compare the mistakes made to the checklists that have been presented at the end of each of the phase tutorials. If those completion checklists are followed and every question can be answered in the affirmative, most of the mistakes would have been avoided. This slide has a few more examples. My tip for the day: develop a good problem statement, identify the appropriate primary metrics, and establish a goal or goals that include the metric or metrics, and you will be off to a great start. The completion checklist contains the questions that the process owner or manager, as well as the team leader and team members, can ask to tollgate the improvement effort to ensure that the control phase is properly completed. By following this checklist approach, by the time all the questions have been answered in the affirmative, the team can be confident that the goals of the process improvement team have been satisfied and that the process owner will be happy with the new process. The team can be confident that if the control phase and control plan is followed, the gain will be sustained, the process will not slip back to its previous level of performance, the voice of the customer or patient will be satisfied, the process will be predictable, repeatable, and reproducible. Thank you for attending our tutorial today. I hope you have enjoyed the A3 tutorial series and that they have been well worth your time. Good day.